Before we jump into today's episode, I invite you to join us in the Chase Club. 2 reasons why I would love for you to consider it. The first reason is that it is where we can do the daily work to fight back against the drift of modern life, something we've talked about quite a bit lately and something I'm really excited to help you do better. Inside the Chase Club is where we can do that. And the second reason is the show wouldn't exist without people jumping in and doing a little bit more than just listening. If you've been with us for a while and you want to make sure we continue to get to make this show, jumping into the Chase Club is the best way to do so. You can learn about what you get inside the Chase Club at chasingexcellence.email/about, or just click the link in the show notes. Okay, let's get into the show. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Chasing Excellence. Thank you so much for being here. I'm Patrick. Got something we've done a handful of times before. I'm excited to do it again. Something I lovingly refer to as a supercut, which is when I go back through the archives of the show, which we have been doing for somewhere in the realm of 10 years, over 500 episodes. I thank you very much if you've been here for the entire ride. I thank you regardless of when you got here, but especially those folks who have been with us, who have been chasing for as long as we've been chasing. Thank you very, very much. We are, this time around, we are going to make a supercut out of something we are in the midst of. So we are just at the start of, at least when we publish this episode, we are at the very start of a new 21-day high performance challenge. Our previous episode that we did a few days ago, I introduced what the high performance challenge looked like, some of the reasons why we're doing it, some of the reasons why I think it's worth doing. I will put in the show notes a link to a little bit more details if you want to read through it. You can also go to chasingexcellence.email to get some more context about the 21-day high performance challenge. But today I want to bring together 3 of the episodes that form the basis or the foundation of that challenge, where we pulled the ideas from, where we pulled some of the daily prompts from. It is from somewhere inside of these 3 episodes. And so that's what we've got for you today. We've got 3 episodes all looking at what it means to perform at a high level, because here's something that we have come to believe, and it's that high performance is not a talent. It is not something that you're born with or something that only a handful of folks have access to, but instead it is a system. It's a set of habits, decisions, mindset, practices that all of us, any of us can put into practice. And you can do that starting today once you begin to see it as a system. And again, that's what the high performance challenge is all about. We're going to start at the beginning with the simplest possible recipe that we can come up with for success. Then we're going to build on that foundation by getting specific about the 5 characteristics that we see in every high performer we've ever known or studied. And then we're going to flip the whole thing around and look at what it looks like when somebody isn't performing at a high level. So we're going to look at the 7 habits that quietly and consistently keep people from becoming the person they are capable of becoming. All right, quick reminder, it's not too late to join us. Whenever you listen to this, click through the links in the show notes or listen to the preview episode that we just put out to get more context to how to do the performance challenge, whether you do this a month after we do it or you start with us today. Okay. Let us get into this first conversation. It is from July 9th of 2024. The episode was called The Simplest Recipe for Success. Show up and don't complain. Here it is. We're going to talk about what I think is maybe the simplest recipe for success that we have, which is to show up and don't complain. I don't remember exactly how we had this conversation months ago, but we were talking, I think, about the gym, probably talking about CompTrain. And you said to me, like, the simplest prescription I have for success in the gym, and maybe it was CrossFit New England, is if I can just get you to show up and not complain, almost everything kind of gets taken care of from there. So let's start in the gym, since it's the most appropriate place. And I think it is where we started this conversation, you and I. What does it mean to show up and don't complain? And why is that such a powerful and simple framework to use in pursuit of success?
If you start to go and back up some dominoes and go, well, what is the actual prerequisites for success? Because there's a lot of strategies, there's a lot of objectives, there's a lot of tools in place. There's a lot of methods that somebody could use. But what are the non-negotiables? What are the actual like things that are going to be the first domino that everything else is going to then fall from? Well, the first one is you have to do the work. You have to show up. You have to actually be there. So whether that's work or relationships or fitness, the conversation started with the gym. You have to go. You have to do the thing. No one is going to, whatever the fitness goal is, be able to bench press 300 pounds, squat 450, run a 5-minute mile, and do 30 unbroken pull-ups without the training, without actually doing the work. I like Peter Attia's thing about why VO2 max is a good metric for cardiovascular health. He's like, because you can't cheat it. You can't cram for the test. You have to have done the work. You can't just do like 3 weeks of work and be like, well, now I have it. It's kind of like, which you might be able to get away with like with body weight, right? You just don't eat for 3 weeks and the scale all of a sudden looks a whole lot better. That's not the case for true health. It takes a lot more work than that. Well, what is work? You have to show up. You have to be there. You have to take action. And, this is a little bit more of a hurdle than you might think for a lot of people, because a lot of people are actually giving themselves credit without actually doing the work. There is a dopamine. There is a feel-good response from talking about your goals. And when people talk about their goals, they can elude themselves in the fact that they actually are achieving it. Dopamine is this reinforcing mechanism that keeps you going. Back in ancestral past, it was a thing of like chasing down the antelope. As you got closer, you felt good. There was before you're like, oh, you're getting closer to your goal, keep it going. Just you talking about improving your career, just you talking about getting a 6-pack, just you talking about doing those things makes you feel good. Just you talking about eating healthier. This is why people always have diets that start on a Monday, because it feels really good to talk about you eating salads and water and giving up the things. You get a feel good out of that. But in terms of success, you are not moving the ball down the field at all. You're still at the goal line. You need to take first step across the line of scrimmage and actually start doing the work and marching down the field. In the more psychiatric standpoint of this, there's a lot of, this has been talked about in a lot of different ways by different institutions. The religious thing, or what shows up in cartoons, is like you have an angel and a devil talking to you on each shoulder.
I like it's religion and cartoons. Those are the two.
Yeah,
that's the two ways they show up.
Yes, yeah. There should
Very
be more
similar,
of that.
those two worlds.
There should be more of that. And in Freud talked about it as the super ego and the id. I think that Ray Dalio and other people, Tim Galway in The Inner Game of Tennis talks about self 1 and self 2. There's 2 yous inside of you. There's 2 yous living inside of you. Self 1 is the kind of like the righteous one that wants all the best things for you and knows what those things are. And that's why it's really good at long-term planning. Like next summer, I'm going to have abs, But self 2 is the one that when push comes to shove, it's the one that like, yeah, I want abs, but like, but let's still eat those 4 cookies. And self 1 is usually a little bit more of a whisper and almost goes quiet in the time of actual decision making. Self 2 is the one that's, when you're talking about like what's going to happen in the future, it doesn't have a voice. But when it talks about what's happening right now, it's not a whisper. It's so loud. Like, no, have the pizza, have the second pizza. And what we have to realize is if we want success, if we want to achieve the things we want to, it's about action. It's about doing the thing. And that's what's in self 1 is in control of. So the first side of this, show up and don't complain, is like, you have to show up. You have to be in the gym 4, 5, 6 days a week if you want to be the crazy fit person that you think you can become. It doesn't happen by mistake. it doesn't happen just by you thinking about it. It's not enough. I'm not saying don't plan. I'm not saying don't strategize. I'm not saying don't figure out the right tools, tactics, become more knowledgeable about it. All those things can play a role, but all of the thinking, planning, and knowledge accounts for zero in terms of the true success of health until you put it into practice. What do you have to do to put in practice? You must show up. Number one is you actually have to be there and actually do some work. The second part of the equation is you can actually completely undermine the work with the wrong mindset. And as a coach that's done this for, going on almost 2 decades, I've seen this where people show up to the gym 5 days a week, but they have such a defeatist mindset. They have such a victim mindset. They complain about the process so much that they actually talk themselves out of results. So if you want to me, the two prerequisites, the two things that must be there, everything else is sort of negotiable. The non-negotiables for results is you must show up and you can't complain about it. If those two things are in place, results are going to happen. Now, at what speed? That's variable. At what trajectory? Will it be a low, constant trajectory up and to the right? Or will it be ups and downs and bumps? And all of that is unknown. But the only two prerequisites that I can put in place that are consistent, basically across any endeavor, whether it's the gym or it's relationships or it's your career or it's parenting, you have to show up and you can't complain about it. Those two things and success will happen. Maybe not on your timeline and maybe not without the bumps in the road, but success can then be a result of the process. Without those two things, it's more of a coin flip.
It makes me think about something that we're still in the midst of and something we've talked about before, but with CalmTrain, which a lot of folks will obviously know of what it is. And over the last, let's call it 18 months, we've been in the process of rebuilding the app, might be the simplest way to put it. And man, has that not gone the way we had intended it and thought it would go. And I bring that up simply to say, I think it would have been really easy for the team, it's for you as the leader and the team itself and everybody around, to have stopped showing up. Maybe not literally, like we still show up at the meetings and whatnot, but really show up. And when we did show up, complain about all the things that weren't going the way we hoped they would go, complaining about the things that weren't working yet, at the speed at which they were being fixed and all of these things. And I think about if we had spent the last 18 months doing that, sort of showing up and complaining while we were there, we wouldn't have ever gotten to a place where we are now, which is, okay, we see the light, right? We're not there yet. Everything's not perfect, but we've done enough to be able to be in a place where we think we're getting out of it. And I think that's just a microcosm. That's just one example of why or where showing up and not complaining were necessary to get from a place of things not working the way we want them to moving towards a place where they are working. And I think that if we were to just take that example or that story and drop that into other areas of life, we'd recognize that almost everything that we want, to your point, won't happen on our timeline, won't happen without bumps in the road. But how often do we either not show up or complain while we are there, such that we don't ever get to the place where it's like, oh, this is almost working?
Yeah, it's easier to talk about this now on the basically on the other side of that, the last year of challenges that we faced. But that's all of the endeavors that we have in life. And for us, we're trying to break this down into nice frameworks that it's not an infinite number of endeavors. We have these few things that truly matter to us. And if we can chase those things with this perspective, which it always is going to require us to show up. If you throw in the towel, like we could have done, it's over. Like it's over. And we very easily, I mean, Patrick, you were behind the scenes, the amount of work and commitment it took to see ourselves through this. And wow, it's really cool to be on the other side of this thing and seeing what's ahead of us. Like it was a lot of work. And I feel really proud of the work that we've done and what we can bring to the market now. To your point, if we had showed up to work every day, but we didn't bring our full self to it, that's not showing up.
Right.
That's
Yeah,
not
just
what we're talking
being
about.
there in body only is not showing up. That's
Now you have now here's the other thing though is you do have to show up in body. Like you have
Right, of course.
that is like being a
Yes.
parent. Like you hear this a lot, which is these super high achievers that start to work with mentors and they ask them what their values are and they go, well, it's for me it's family first. And they go, okay, show me your schedule. And they're out the door at 5:30 in the morning. They go to the gym. From the gym, they shower and they go to work. And they're at work until 6:30 at night. And then they go have the dinners. And they come back. And after their corporate dinner, they come home and they're home at 8:30 at night. Enough time to tuck their kids into bed and kiss them goodnight. Maybe they read them a goodnight story. No. That is not showing up. That is not putting your family first. As a leader, is leadership important to you? Is leadership important to you, but you lock yourself up in your ivory tower or in your office, or you only meet with your super small executive team or the board? That is not leadership. To be a true leader, if that's what you're trying to bring, you need to be present. And I learned this the hard way coming out of COVID a bunch of different times and trying to pass off certain responsibilities to other people. You have to be present to the point now, I don't do any work in my office anymore. I do it, if I'm in a room, it's a glass room so I can see out and people can see in. I don't even do any work in offices anymore because I've realized the power of showing up. You have to show up. Your feet have to be there. Your eyes have to be on them and their eyes on you. This is a prerequisite for just about anything and everything. Then from there, it's kind of like, are you showing up with your attention? Are you the parent that's there, but you're on your computer, you're on your phone, that's better than not being there, ... maybe. But at least it gives you the opportunity, right?
Yes.
It at least gives you the opportunity. You have another foot in the door. You at least are like at the beach with your swim trunks on. It's not like you're in your suit. The opportunity is there. But we'd love to be there with like your full self. Like, and this is where, chasing what truly matters comes into play, is can you bring your true, full, authentic self to every moment, being fully present. And present is here now, not daydreaming about something future, not replaying something in the past, and certainly not distracted, any of the five senses we've already talked about, by something else. Your sight, your sound, your feel, your touch, your smell, whatever it is. You're here in this thing. That's what showing up is. That's showing up to the gym, not with your phone, checking it, Instagram in between and doing text messages. No, you're here for this hour and you're giving this hour your full attention. That's what showing up is. We need to be there with our full best self. And if we do that, and we bring this other mindset component, which is I'm not going to play the victim along the way. I'm not going to sit here and go, well, this will never work. I can't, like the small handful of people I've had walk into the gym with that mindset, it does not work. They will come to the gym the same number of times and they are physically present the same way, but because they have the mentality of, this is now my sixth try at losing weight, getting off medication, whatever it might be. And they just have this idea, well, like, I'm just going to go through the motions of it, but I'm going to complain along the way. It will derail. It will derail the process. It's the same thing as you going into a job, a new career, and going, listen, no matter how hard I work, because my other jobs, no matter how hard I work, they're not going to recognize my efforts. I'm going to be devalued. No one's going to appreciate my contributions. No one's going to think that I'm a valuable member of the team. I'm never going to get to what I deserve. Guess what's going to happen? Those things. Call it what you want. It doesn't matter to me. Yeah, what I don't want you to call it is like positive thinking. It's not that. If you want to call it like bringing your best self, I like that. Some people call it manifesting. It's not like I'm not saying you're going to will it into the universe. It's going to come back to you. But what I am saying is if you do the opposite, it won't happen. You need to at least get yourself swimming downstream. You have to be going in the right direction. Otherwise, if you're swimming upstream against it, of course, it's going to be way too much effort for what's on the other side, which is what we've been talking about is the prerequisites for success.
When we started this here show, Chasing Excellence, it felt like every day introduced a new decision that needed an answer. It still kind of feels like that. How do we get in front of people? Where does everything live? How does any of this work? There are a lot of hats you don't expect to wear when you start something new. For millions of businesses, Shopify is the tool that makes all of that manageable. Shopify is the commerce platform behind 10% of all e-commerce in the US, from household names to brands just getting started. Hundreds of ready-to-use templates so you can build the store that matches your brand and your dream. AI tools that write product descriptions, polish copy, and enhance your photos. Award-winning 24/7 customer support so you're never figuring it out all by yourself. Inventory, payments, analytics, shipping, everything all in one place so you spend less time managing platforms and more times building what you started. You can start your own business today with the best partner in the game if you sign up for your $1 per month trial at shopify.com/excellence. Shopify.com/excellence. That's Shopify.com/excellence. We are refinishing our basement into a family room this summer as we speak. It's a project we've been planning for a little bit now. And because of it, it's the first time in a while that we had to get really, really intentional about our finances. And we are grateful that we had Monarch on our side. Monarch is the personal finance app that tracks everything: accounts, investments, savings goals, and spending. You can get your first year of Monarch Core for half off, just $50 with the promo code Excellence. Here's what I love. It doesn't just show you what you've already spent. It helps you see whether you're on track for what actually matters. We asked Monarch's AI assistant, can we do this project without touching our savings? And it answered with our actual data, cash flow, savings rate, where spending had quietly crept up. Most apps tell you what happened. Monarch helps you plan for what is coming. Use the code Excellence at monarch.com to get your first year of Monarch Core half off at just $50. That's 50% off your first year of Monarch Core at monarch.com with the code Excellence. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. Summer sounds amazing in theory, and then school gets out, the schedule disappears, and suddenly you're managing kids, work, workouts, and everything else all at the same time. I love summer with my boys, but there is a version that feels like thriving and a version that feels like white knuckling it until September comes back. What makes the difference is whether you've actually built time for yourself. If you've struggled with that in the past, well, therapy can help you understand what you need, where your limits are, and how to say no without the guilt. BetterHelp makes it easy to get that kind of support. Over 30,000 fully licensed therapists, an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 across more than 1.7 million client reviews. All you got to do is fill out a short questionnaire. They'll match you with a therapist, and if it's not a right fit, you switch. No friction, no issues. You don't have to say yes to everything this summer, but you might want to say yes to therapy because that's where you can find the support you need. Sign up and get 10% off at betterhelp.com/excellence. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/excellence. And I think it's also something we talked about before, which is just the attention cost. If you spend all of your attention looking for the things that aren't working, if you spend all of your attention thinking about my kid never listens to me, or my boss doesn't respect me, or I've been to the gym every day for 3 months and I haven't lost the 30 pounds yet. If you spend all of that attention on those negative things, the app still doesn't work, the people aren't responding to me, then you don't have the opportunity to look for the things that are working, to reinforce the actions, the showing up, to continue to be sustainable, to be consistent, to show up again tomorrow, the day after that. And it's the showing up the day after that and the day after that. That's ultimately the thing that's going to get you to where you're trying to get. But if you spend so much time thinking about what's not working, what's not perfect, and where it's not yet where you want it to be, ultimately, I think we can only take so much of that before we just bow out and say, you know what? It's not meant to be. Maybe this isn't the right way. Maybe this isn't the right job. At some point, you'll just stop showing up if all you've done every time you have showed up is look for everything that's not working and look for every imperfection and look for every place that you've fallen short. Ultimately, you just won't show up again.
So that if you're looking for all of those struggles, challenges, negatives, we've talked about this before, but it's, in psychology circles, it's called the reticular activation system, which is what you look for, you'll see more of. It's a frequency illusion. You're going to go
Red cars
buy,
everywhere.
you're going to go and you're thinking about buying a new Jeep Cherokee. Guess what you start to see everywhere? It's what you look for, you see more of. Now, what we know is that the word is hope. Hope is real. Now that's, get ready for like the eye roll moments until we go. One of the most renowned psychologists ever is B.F. Skinner. And he did this really profound test on Norwegian field mice, which is he had them swim. It's a swim test. Tread water in a big tub as long as they possibly can until they reach full exhaustion and drown. And he times them to see how long they can do it. And I'm probably going to get the numbers a little bit wrong. It's been a long time so to this study, but I believe it ended up, they could swim for about 3.5 hours or so before they reach full exhaustion. And meanwhile, this is animal instincts. They don't have the capacity to go like, it's just a bad day. Like my legs are sore. I shouldn't have gone out partying last night. I'm not going to give it full effort. This is the true maximum capacity of this species. They can swim for 3.5 hours before reaching complete exhaustion. These little tiny legs before they drown. Except when he redid the experiment, he instead gave a second group of mice hope. And what he did is just before that 3.5 hour mark, he pulled the mice out just for a moment or two before putting them back in. But he gave those mice hope that they could be rescued. And these mice swam for over twice as long, ended up being like 8 hours to exhaustion. What this means is if you have a belief, that's what it is. If you have a belief that things will work out, hope, you're willing to commit over twice as much effort. Now, if you just come in complaining is the telltale sign you're focusing on negative things outside of your control. Remember the decision tree. Did something go wrong? Yes or no? No. Well, then there's nothing to complain about. Nothing's wrong. Did something go wrong? Yes. Do you have control over that? No. Then don't complain. Like, there's nothing to complain about because you can't change it. Did something go wrong? Do you have control over that? Meaning, can you influence it? Yes. Well, then don't complain. Go change it. Go do the thing. In no circumstance does focusing on negative things outside of your control improve your performance. Period. It does not happen. So instead, what we've got to do is if we find something that's worth complaining about, you either figure out that this is something I can't change and I need to let it go, or it's something I can change and go make the change. How do you make the change? You show up without complaining.
Mm-hmm.
And it comes back to that same cycle. This is the prerequisites for success.
Mm-hmm. Which brings us back to kind of what I started this with is this is the simplest prescription, the simplest recipe we have for success. And because you really can, whether it's the gym and your health, whether it's work and your job, whether it's your relationships, whether it's your parenting, whether it's just your own personal growth, it almost doesn't matter what it is. If you layer on top of it, the solution comes from showing up, however the domain, however the context demands or dictates what showing up looks like. And while you are there, after you've showed up, you don't complain.
Right.
If you just look at everything that you're trying to accomplish, if we look at everything that we're trying to accomplish and say, what does it look like to show up? And then to make sure that we don't complain while we show up, I really do think that that's a recipe for, again, your point. Doesn't know when, you don't know how quick, it won't happen without bumps in the road. But if you just stick to it, which is sort of my last question, which is the ultimate sustainability of this approach, You can always show up and you can always not complain. And I think that's why it's so useful and so valuable, because you can always show up and you can always choose not to complain.
Yeah, and to your point, it rolls across modalities. It rolls across endeavors, right? So if in personal growth, if you're reading all the right books, right? If you're listening to Chasing Excellence, if you're going to Tony Robbins seminars, but in the back of your head going like, damn it, mom, it's still your fault, right? It's your fault. Like, and you still have that complaint thing in your head, I can't promise that you'll get there. It gives you the best chance at success. If you continually show up day after day, day after day, day after day, and you resist every temptation and form the ability to reframe complaints into something else, that's our best shot. And it's the same thing with relationships. If you go, hey, I'm gonna go on date night twice a week, and I'm gonna buy my wife flowers on the way home, and I'm going to kiss her on the way out the door. But in the back of your mind, you're going like, I'm doing all the work. Why isn't she doing this, that, and that? You're complaining. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen. But instead, if you take full ownership, you don't complain, you don't pass the buck, meaning this still sits in the same framework that we've always had. You're not a victim. The victim mentality is the most detrimental thing that we can do as human beings to ourselves. Now, there are victims. There are victims of trauma and abuse and otherwise horrific things that shouldn't happen to people. But that's different than a victim mentality, and that's what we're talking about. The victim mentality ultimately is a choice. Now, for some people, it's a much more difficult choice than others. But ultimately, it does come down to a choice.
All right. That was our simple recipe for success. Show up and don't complain. I know it sounds too simple, but Ben made the case in that conversation that these aren't just mindset cues. They are, in fact, the two non-negotiable prerequisites for success in darn near anything. Without them, basically everything else will collapse. But with them, results become almost inevitable, even if the timeline and the path look different than you imagined. And I promise you, the timeline and the path will look different than you imagined. Now, once you've got those two things in place, once you've committed to showing up fully and leaving the victim mentality at the door, the natural next question becomes, okay, what do I actually do? What does high performance actually look like in practice? That's exactly where our next conversation picks up. About a week after that Show Up and Not Complain episode, we followed it up with an episode about the 5 specific characteristics that Ben has seen in every high performer he's ever coached or worked with or studied. They are not abstract principles. They are concrete habits. And together they form what we now think of as the architecture of high performance. This episode is from July 16th of 2024. It was originally called 5 Characteristics of High Performers. And here it is. This is maybe 2 weeks ago. You did a quick talk to the CompTrain crew, and you put up a slide saying, here are the 5 habits that I've seen across the high performers that I've known in my life. And so I just literally took a screenshot and a mental note, and I said, I want to talk to you about these because we really had like 2 minutes in that meeting to unpack the 5. So this is my excuse to do so. So the first one first, have ridiculous work ethic. What does that mean?
Okay, so I think usually, like I do this before, when you always ask that first, I'm like, let's back up a little bit, maybe give a little bit.
I should know that. I should give you space to be like, before I get into this first one, let's zoom out. But yeah, so here we go. I just did it. Let's zoom out first before we get into
Patrick.
the first one.
I'd love to zoom out about this. That's a good call. So the way that this was interjected into the CompTrain team was we're constantly, just like we are here, we're constantly trying to create the frameworks and create the understanding, the shared language of what is meaningful, what is valuable, what is important to us. And one of the things that, or I should say the thing that we're trying to do first and foremost in our organization is create a really strong team. And a really strong team is made up of really strong team players. And there's a number of different characteristics that make up a team player, but one of the ones is, you have to be a high performer. And when you are on a team with high performers, this is the Nick Saban thing. High performers do not like mediocre performers, and mediocre performers do not like being on teams with high performers. So it's a good kind of like, why do I not feel comfortable on this? And everything is modal specific. So I would not like being on a team of high performers of tech people, right? They'd be all like geeked up, excited, passionate, driven, creating all sorts of tech stuff. And it wouldn't. So understanding where you are helps. And because you're a high performer in one area does not mean you're a high performer in another. It's not how you do anything is how you do everything. I do not believe in that mantra. And it's Jeff Bezos has said it, that it's modal specific. Because you're excellent at accounting doesn't mean you're going to be excellent at marketing. And because you are excellent at your health and fitness journey does not mean you're going to be excellent in your relationships. Once you say it like that, it's like, oh yeah, I get it. So what we are looking for is high performers in our modal specific area, meaning we are looking for people that are a part of our organization that are high performers in their respective jobs. So that's how we got to that conversation, and we had a conversation, and as you said, it was pretty quick, but I tried to do the drip, drip, drip. Yep. Every week we talk about something. So that gets us to, I laid out five characteristics. As you said, 5 habits that I've seen from my firsthand experience, but also from reading about other high performers and other teams, from Howard Schultz at Starbucks to, Steve Jobs to, just trying to find the other high performers and what they've done to create amazing teams around them, Ray Dalio and others. So that's the backstory. Now let's go back to that original question, which was,
okay,
what was the first character I said?
I'll give it to you in a second, but real quick, because that was very helpful and got me thinking, is this more useful, or is this a better way to look at this as a high-performing team member? Or do you feel, before we get into each of the individual ones, do you feel like these 5 are just as applicable to us, whether or not we are thinking about them through the lens of a team, whether that's a work team, whether that's a sports team, whether that's something else?
Yeah, it would be for both, but one is like, I think accountability is one of these, right? Yep. And accountability, you just have to be accountable to yourself at that point. Yep. So I think that's the only one that might be a little bit more edging towards a team. Environment.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, but
useful
context. They work across individual pursuits or team.
All right, dig it. So that first one, have ridiculous work ethic.
Okay, so to be a high performer, it kind of goes without saying, is you have to bust your ass. There's no substitute for putting in the work. It does not mean burning the midnight oil. It does not mean 100-hour work weeks. It actually might be the opposite of that, right? In some sense. It means that you are doing incredible, deep work. You are producing, you are making, you are contributing. The work ethic is the type of thing that no one, when I used to coach the games athletes, like no one gets to the top having to be persuaded, cajoled, and like asked to come to the gym. It's the opposite. Every one of those people, they're putting in the work, in most of the case, above and beyond the work without anyone having to tell them to do so. So, yeah, I mean, it's just, you have to have work ethic. You have to be disciplined. You have to do the work. If you think of this on a spectrum, on one end you have complacency, in the middle you have competence, on the far end you have excellence. Well, to get to that excellence in anything, you have to have a really strong work ethic. And I think that's across any endeavor that you would pursue, whether you're trying to be a world-class violinist or make it to the CrossFit Games or start a really successful business. You can't be a high performer without really strong work ethic.
Mm-hmm. It makes me think about, I think, two things. One, I think one of the things you said while you presented this was that high performers tend to need to be held back and not pushed forward. So I think about that in what you were talking about with the CrossFit Games athletes. They're maybe an extreme example, but you never had to call them and say, hey, why aren't you in the gym yet? It was more, why are you still in the gym? And yes, I think that's important. But I think it's important because of something we've talked about a little bit, which is just the idea of maximum sustainable pace. And in order to be a high performer, it's not a high performer for 2 weeks. It's not a high performer for this particular sprint or this quarter. It's how can I be as high a performer as possible? How can I work the hardest, the longest? And if I'm working so hard, if I'm doing that 100 hours a week for 2 weeks or 3 weeks in a row, then my effectiveness, my efficiency, my productivity all drops off a cliff at some point. And so it's the maximum sustainable pace at which I can be a high performer. And I think that is important, because I think when you say have ridiculous work ethic, if you don't know that, if you don't keep that in mind, what you hear is, I'm going to be the first one there and I'm going to be the last one to leave.
Yeah. You know what, though? It is a little bit of that. It is a little bit of the first one there, last one to leave. Now, this is what we have to, this is a high performer. I'm not saying a high performer is the best trait possible. This is kind of like a tip of the hat to the Chasing Excellence circa 2015, 16, 17, where it's like, so there, Elon Musk is a super high performer. Elon Musk works 100-hour work weeks, and he's been doing this for 3 decades. It seems very sustainable, because it's like it's the only thing he knows how to do. This is what I mean by a high performer. And I'm not saying like a fulfilled human being. I'm not saying chasing what truly matters. I'm not saying the person that is going to have the greatest level of fulfillment and happiness. I'm just literally saying a high performer, like somebody that is an incredible contributor. Now, to your point, you can't do that at an unsustainable pace, because in the long run, you will not be. If you are only getting 4 hours of sleep a night and you are stressed to the max as you're doing this, that's not what high performers look like. But high performers have this inherent sort of, it's like in their DNA. Like they just like to do the work. It's just built into them. It's the Kobe Bryant. Like he was the guy that when people, there's the epic stories of the other teammates are coming back from the club and they're getting in the hotel elevator going up, and they pass him in the hotel elevator going down because they're going to bed. He's waking up to go to the gym and start working out. They're coming home at 4 a.m. He's waking up at 4 a.m. That's what a high performer looks like. So it is a little bit of first in, last out, but to your point, done at a maximal sustainable.
Yeah, take that. The second one, don't need to be managed, be accountable.
Yeah, so whereas the first one is no one needs to tell you to show up, this one is no one needs to tell you what to do. Now, there's a part of it where we have to have a shared vision, so we know that we're all rowing the boat in the same direction. But a high performer, I kind of like the example would be if you hire a high performer CMO, Chief Marketing Officer, you don't tell that marketing officer what to do. I think of it this way. I wouldn't need a job description to be a CrossFit coach at an affiliate. I've done this long enough and I'm proficient enough that I would be a high-performing CrossFit coach. A newer or underperform what needs the job description. This is what I need. This is the time I need you to show up for your class. This is how I need you to run your class. This is the expectations. This is the roles, responsibilities of this position. A high performer does not need those things. They do not need to be managed. They do not need to be told what to do. They know how to do this, and they will exceed all expectations. And the reason that you're hiring this high performer is because they're going to go and do this thing better than you could otherwise. So the other part of that is, if you think of it in terms of the spectrum again of complacent to competent to excellent, think of somebody that needs to be micromanaged all minutes of the day. Like you have to constantly be helicoptering them to like, are they on their phone? Are they just playing solitaire? Are they doing something? Are they talking to their buddies? Think of somebody like working the front desk at a gym. If you need to constantly be micromanaging that individual, they're obviously not a high performer. Versus a person that comes in, you hire them for the front desk, you go over the roles, responsibilities, you go, and they are by week 2 and 3, they're doing an audit of the membership on their own. and they're reaching out to old members to do, and they create a win back campaign. They are going through and creating a SOP for how to manage the facility and the equipment. Like, that's a high performer. Ryan Holiday spoke of this in Obstacle is the Way. And I'm going to forget, you might remember, there was a U.S. president that started off at a university. He couldn't afford to take classes, so he exchanged janitorial services to be able to take classes. Within a 2-year, I might get the specifics wrong, but it's about the letter of the story, not the specifics. Yep. Within a 2-year period, he's a professor. Within a 5-year period, he's the president of the university. That is a high performer. That is, I promise you, no one had to go and check his work when he was a janitor.
Yeah.
Like, nobody had to. And he eventually became the president of the United States. So this is a person that just goes and does the thing to the very best of their ability, not holding anything back. That's what high performers look like.
This is the one that you said at the top, that high performers don't like to work with I think you used the word mediocre people. This is the one that I think is when it happens, is when that teammate does get hired and you see them not just doing spec, but they show up, they do the job that they were hired to do, or they do the parameters of the job that was set, like, here's what you do. And then all of a sudden they are writing the SOPs, or they're all coming up with the plan to clean the gym more efficiently, like whatever the heck the thing might be. And then when it's reflected back on you and you realize, oh, I'm just doing spec. I'm just doing it to the degree that they were expected of me and not above and beyond. And that's where the tension comes, because then that opens a loop and you have to make the choice. Am I going to step up and match this high performance, this work ethic, this accountability, or am I going to shrink and say, this place isn't for me anymore?
I like that. Yeah, or you expand or shrink, because you see the gap between where you are and what you could fill. There's a lot of space in there. Think of it in terms of hanging out with somebody that's really, really into fitness. If you're not, you don't like hanging out with that person because they're up early and you want to sleep in. They are going for runs and you want to sit and scroll. They're talking about going to the gym and the workout and you want to talk about gossip. They're all about eating the salad and the clean protein, and you want to go and find the chips and the snacks. It makes you feel uncomfortable. Like it will make you feel uncomfortable if you are a mediocre performer and you're hanging out with a high performer.
If we're going to invest in how we feel, we should actually know what's going on inside. I've been using Function for a while now for the labs, 160 plus biomarkers, real data on what's happening in my body. It's changed how I think about my health. No guessing, no reacting, just knowing. Next step is adding a Function scan. Advanced MRI scans that screen for hundreds of potential conditions across up to 14 organs, including early signs of cancer before you feel a thing. FDA cleared AI image enhancement, no ionizing radiation, every scan reviewed by board certified radiologists. Combined with the labs, it's the most complete picture of your health available to regular folks like you and I, because the goal was never to live longer in a hospital. It's to live well for 100 healthy years. We use it here. We think you should use it as well. Get ahead of what you can't feel yet. Join at functionhealth.com/excellence or use the gift excellence25 for a $25 credit toward your membership and up to a $200 credit toward your scan. Functionhealth.com/excellence. If you've looked into using AI for customer support, you've probably run into the same problem. Most options are off the shelf and don't quite fit your needs, or it's a great custom solution, but it takes forever to launch. Decagon gives you the best of both worlds. I've actually used Decagon as a user before, so I can speak to how good it actually is. It helps companies create personalized concierge-style customer experiences with AI agents across chat, email, voice, and SMS. They are available 24/7, feel natural to talk to, and can resolve customer requests on their own so businesses can keep up with requests without losing their personal touch. Decagon plugs directly into your existing system so agents go live quickly. And because workflows can be updated using natural language, teams can make changes themselves, less time managing, more time focused on customers and ROI. Decagon helps power millions of conversations every day for brands you know and love, including Avis, Affirm, Fanatics, and Aura. If you're ready to transform your customer support, go to decagon.ai/excellence to get a personalized demo. Decagon.ai/excellence, DECAGON.ai/excellence. excellence. I love the morning ritual of a hot drink, the smell, the warmth, the few minutes before the house wakes up. Oh, I love it so much. What I didn't love was the caffeine dependency and how hard the afternoon hit when it actually wore off. So mud water can fix that. I've got the OG blend here at the house: cacao, chai, turmeric, functional mushrooms. It's warm, it's grounding, it's like a spiced hot cocoa that actually does something useful. It's got about 1/7 of the caffeine of coffee, enough to feel clear and focused, but not wired, steadier energy, no spiral, no issues at night. The starter kit is the best way in. You get a full-size tin of your chosen blend, whether OG, coffee, matcha, or turmeric, plus a free rechargeable frother, free gifts, and some free shipping, of course. If you are ready to make the switch to cleaner energy, go to mudwater.com/excellence. Grab the starter kit, use the code excellence for 43% off. The frother alone, I'm not lying, is worth it. That's up to 43% off with the code excellence at mudwtr.com. After your purchase, they'll ask how you found them. Please let them know that we sent you, mudwater.com. Number 3 on our list of 5, ask yourself, what's the most important thing right now?
So high performers know that they almost do it with subconsciously. They're constantly prioritizing. And the acronym for this is WIN, W-I-N, what's important now. And if you want to win, you constantly need to be asking yourself that. I actually think this is one of the most important questions we should be asking ourselves at all times, is truly what, if you think of the Eisenhower matrix in terms of important versus urgent, urgent things are time bound. If they don't get done now, they'll be past due. But important things usually don't have a deadline associated with them. They're things that you can't delegate away. They're things that you need to do yourself. And they have a lot to do with things that will create the most fulfilling life for ourselves. So what is the most important, what is the most impactful use of our time right now? So, we've had the conversation before where people talk about how time is the most important and non-renewable resource. But I like the way that I think you've reframed it, which is it's not necessarily time, but it's attention. It's where are you putting your attention? Because I could be spending time with my family, but if I'm scrolling social while I'm doing that, or answering emails, or even if I'm physically there but my mind is somewhere else, that's not giving them the attention. It's your attention that is actually the finite resource that is the most important. So what's important now? What should you be giving your full self to at this moment? And a lot of times the answer to that question is not as obvious as we'd like it to be. We get caught up into our normal default patterns and modus operandum a lot, which is I'm going to go and open up my computer and answer emails. Well, is that the most important thing that you could be doing right now? I'm sure it feels very, very urgent, but should you be working on creating a blog post? Should you be working on that project? Should you be working on reconnecting with some people that you haven't talked to in too long? Should you be calling your wife or sending her a text just saying, love you, babe? Like, what is the most important thing? This is what high performers are doing. And they're doing it at a subconscious level because it's just built into, again, who they are. Now, we might not have that, so we have to maybe create some triggers to make us do that. And this is one of the reasons that I track a lot of things, is I try to keep myself on track by saying, these are the important things. If I want to be a high performer in my life, I have to do the most important things, not all the urgent. If you read a lot of the, getting things done type stuff, they'll say you build it into your calendar. And you do it at a weekly basis. They've talked about this in terms of time management. There's like level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, and so on. And one of the highest levels is you schedule out by the week and you create blocks to be able to do the important stuff. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, I'm not good at that. I put the important and the urgent overrides it. I block out these things like I'm going to work on this at that time. And unless this is the only hack I've come up with. Unless it's the first thing I do that day, it'll get overridden by something with more of a pressure and a deadline to it. Mm-hmm. So the way that I do it the other way is I go, hey, here are the things that I know I need to do. And I'm going to check off these boxes essentially to make sure I'm doing these on a daily and a weekly basis. Yeah, sure. You got to answer those emails. And yes, you got to do all the daily tasks associated with your roles and responsibilities. You need to, whatever it is, coach the classes, do the social posts, create the X, Y, and Z, jump into that meeting. But that's just like pressing the buttons. High performers ask, what's the most impactful thing that I can be doing right now? And they go and do that.
Yeah.
They don't miss the other stuff. They don't miss the other stuff, but they're also doing the most important things and not putting that off.
I like the small tweak you just said. You said the most impactful thing instead of the most important thing. I kind of like impactful more, only because we hear most important. And I don't know that we're very good at determining of the 47 things that I could be doing, what's the most important. But impactful, that begins to create a vision in my head of, oh, okay, like, yeah, that's necessary, but is that impactful? No. Okay. So how do I balance so that 100% of my time isn't on the necessary at the expense of the impactful?
Yeah. And I mean, what we're actually saying is like, we're almost like leveling up to almost like pretty good when we're saying email and social and all, and the stuff that like you need, because that's at least doing something productive. What a lot of people do is they go in they're, you know, I'm just going to jump on Facebook for a little bit. I'm going to go on Etsy. I'm going to go search on Amazon. I'm going to go and scroll through Instagram. And so that is certainly, you know, in terms of, again, that complacency, competence, excellence spectrum, high performers are always asking themselves, what is the most impactful? So again, we could relate this back to the gym. You could go to the gym and you could do a set of 50 wrist curls and a set of 50 sit-ups. Okay, but is that going to be the most impactful thing that you could do in your, you know, let's say you're going to do 3 times 15 wrist curl, 3 times 15 calf raises, 3 times 50 ab mat sit-ups. And that takes you 10, 12 minutes. Is that the most impactful way that you could use those 10 or 12 minutes to further your health and fitness? I would say for most of us, it's not. We could find more impactful ways to spend that time. So asking yourself, what is that most impactful thing?
I don't know that I've ever done a wrist curl. Is that literally like a dumbbell and then you just like flick your
wrist? Dude, yeah, you got like, yeah, dude, it's like, you want to get like, those, like the Sylvester Stallone forearms, that like pop out, like.
Okay, got it. All right, got it. The fourth one on our list.
You're like, please stop.
Take ownership.
Oh, okay. This has to do with mindset more than anything else. And it goes back to our levels, our hierarchy, our phases of mindset. And the lowest is a victim, which says, woe is me, and it's everyone else's fault. And that feels very empowering to them. On the full flip side of that, it is, I have total control over the way I respond to my circumstances. Thus, everything essentially comes down to me. It's not my boss. It is not my coworkers. It is not where I live. It is not the economic environment. It is not the political system. It is not the people on the internet. It is not the trolls. It is me. Like I'm going to take ownership of my situation. If a coworker gets promoted ahead of me, I take ownership of that. I don't blame the boss or the system or the organization or certainly that of the coworker. It's on me. And if I make a mistake, it's not somebody else's fault. It's on me. Like high performers don't make excuses. They don't look for them. Kobe Bryant, again, going back to that. Kobe Bryant, his rookie year, this is such a crazy, awesome story that like his rookie year in the final game of the year, in the waning seconds, they're in the playoffs. It's the final game of the playoffs. He's a rookie straight out of high school. He has Shaquille O'Neal on his team, who basically, if you just give him the ball in the paint, is going to dunk over everybody.
Yep.
It's essentially one of those back and forth tied games. He takes the last 3 shots for his team, all from far outside the key, and he airballs. He doesn't miss. He airballs all 3 shots. Now, what he did being a high performer, he didn't go, woe is me. He didn't go anything else. He didn't blame anybody else. He went, I don't have the legs. I'm not fit enough. I'm not strong enough to be able to handle the 82-game season plus the playoff run. I'm coming out of high school where we play at most 25 games. Man, I need to be in way better shape. And he took ownership of that and ran with it. Mm-hmm. Now, think of how many other people just go like, I got unlucky. Maybe it wasn't for me. I should have passed the ball into there. But high performers take full ownership of everything. I was having the conversation with my coaches this morning, and we were saying, I gave a talk to my class, and she takes my class. And the conversation was about, we were doing this interval piece, which is awesome workout, wall balls, burpees over the rower, and rowing, and you work for 2 minutes and you rest for a minute. You have to finish the amount of work, but it's 2 minutes on, 1 minute off of work, and you kind of chunk your way through this. Mm-hmm. It's such a great workout because it's so hard, but you can't not hear that voice in your head because there's that 1 minute rest. Yep. And you have to start back up. So the whole conversation I had with my class was, don't allow yourself to feel sorry for yourself. And then if you do, don't judge yourself for feeling bad about yourself. We have a tendency to judge ourselves, and you have that coach voice in your head or that critic voice in your head. If the critic pops up and says wow, you're not very good, this is hurting a lot, she's ahead of you, why is it taking so long? Why can't you do 15 wall balls without taking a break? If that pops up, don't then get upset with yourself for having those thoughts. The idea is, and she was saying, it sounds a lot like the way I've sort of heard about meditation now, which is not don't think any thoughts. The idea behind meditation is, can you not judge yourself when you do have thoughts that go off the rails? So you're supposed to sit there quietly and let your mind just kind of be quiet. That's not going to happen. That's the purpose of it the purpose is for it not to happen. Is to try to sit there, and the purpose is when your mind goes, what should I have for dinner tonight? Mm-hmm. Or I have that project to do, to then go, oh damn, wait a minute, I'm supposed to be quiet. Why can't you stay quiet? Why is my mind? That's the whole purpose is meditation is a practice in non-judgment. Mm-hmm. That's you're trying to not judge yourself for thinking. And you're going to think. So then you not judge yourself for not. And if you're able to do that, you get a quieter mind. And if you do that, then all of a sudden you can take ownership of things. Mm-hmm. And if you take ownership of things, you now have the opportunity to be productive. If it's on you, you can take the ball and move it down the field. If it's always going to be somebody else, well, then you're never going to have the ball. You don't get to move it down the field. You're going to be a victim of circumstance at every turn, and you just have to wait for the winds to blow your way.
Do you remember that video you sent me? It was a while back, but about Taylor Swift and her Grammys. Do you remember that?
No.
It was very quick.
No.
It was a video of somebody else talking about this. But it was effectively, there was a documentary filmed about Taylor Swift. And there was a year of the Grammys where she didn't get any of the big nominations. And the documentary shows her on the phone with her agent or manager, somebody, and
I do remember
her manager said, you're not getting any of the big nods because they were all coming out. And the manager's like, you made an amazing album and it's great. And Taylor Swift just says, I just have to make a better album, which is exactly what she then went forward to do. And you can make the argument better, popularity, awards, et cetera. But in her mind, in her line of work, better, this is a degree of better. This is a measurement of better. And I just I thought about that when you were telling the Kobe story, because it's so similar to
right.
that.
It's not like, damn the critics.
Yeah.
How come people don't understand me? This out. And I remember that the agent's going you made a great album. She's like, no, I didn't. I got to be better. Yep. I got to make something better. And again, the way she measures better is by, Grammy nominations. So cool. That's so cool though. Yeah. I love that.
Last one we've got, be the little brother, initiate. What's the little brother story?
There's a farmer that's getting ready to retire, and he's going to pass his farm down to one of his two sons. So he brings his two sons together, and he says, I'm going to pass the farm on to the younger son. And the older son is furious. He says, what are you talking about? Why does he? I'm the oldest son. I should get the farm. The old farmer pauses for a second and says, okay, I need you to do me a favor. We need to buy some more cows. Can you go down to Sibby's and see if they have any cows for sale? So later on that afternoon, the son returns, the oldest son returns. He says, Dad, I went to Sibby's, and he does. He said he had 6 cows for sale. He says, great. Thank you, oldest son. He turns to the younger son and says, I need a favor for you. We need more cows. Can you go down to Sibby's and see if he has any cows for sale? About 35 minutes later, the younger son returns and he says, yeah, Dad, Sibby does. He has 6 cows for sale. He also said that he's getting a new shipment of Jersey cows next week. And these Jersey cows actually produce 20% more milk and require less feed. And I really suggest that we wait for these special Jersey cows. But if we can't, he did say that he would be able to get these cows to us on Thursday by noon. The cost of the cows are $2,000 each, but if we put a down payment down, he'll knock off 10%. The father then turns to the oldest son and says, that's why your brother's getting the farm. The idea is, behind the story of the younger brother, is initiate, don't wait, go above and beyond expectations. There's another story I share, which is Jack Welch, the former CEO of General Electric, was the biggest company in the world in the time. He's essentially the Elon Musk or the Zuckerberg or the Bezos of the 1980s. And during a commencement speech, he told a story that has a similar message, which was, it's funny because he's doing this at a academic graduation. He says, I want you to forget all the lessons that you've learned in school. He said, to get an A in school, you need to meet exactly the teacher's expectations. If you answer every question and you answer every question correctly, you get an A in school. In business, that gets you a C. The expectation in business is that you're going to do the work and you're going to do the work correctly. That's average. If you want to get ahead, there is one secret. This is what he's saying there is, if you want to be a high performer, there is one way to do it. You need to go above and beyond. You need to give your boss shock and awe. Example is, if your boss gives you an assignment of analyzing a competitor, you can already assume that your boss has a pretty good understanding of that competitor's strengths and weaknesses. What you need to do is go in and not only give them what they expect, you need to give them 2 or 3 layers deeper into the onion. You need to give them assessment not only of that competitor, but the 2 closest competitors to that competitor, and potentially the whole market at large. Essentially, the job that you need to do in business is to make your boss smarter. That's the job, not just to do what you were hired to do. That's what the mediocre people do. That's what complacency and competence is. If you want to be excellent and you want to be a high performer, you have to go way above and beyond, just like the little brother, just like the requirement to get an A in business. So this is, again, if we are going to talk about what it looks like to be high performers, you cannot just meet expectations. It is not just about showing up on time to practice and then leaving after practice. It is about being the first in, the last out. It is about making your coach look better. It is about contributing to the business in ways that they didn't even expect you to contribute. Mm-hmm. That's what high performers do.
All right, that was our 5 characteristics of high performers. And if those 5 characteristics feel familiar, it's because they are the exact framework at the heart of the 21-day challenge that we are running, that I've mentioned, that I did a whole episode about last week. Ridiculous work ethic, self-management and accountability, strategic prioritization, complete ownership, initiative beyond expectations. 5 interdependent elements that, when you put them together and practice them with intention, represent what it actually looks like to be a high performer. But here's the thing. Knowing the framework isn't enough. I wish it was, but it is not. Most of us have heard conversations on these ideas before. The gap isn't information, it is execution. And more specifically, it is the slow, quiet drift away from these habits that get most people. That word drift is one we've spent a lot of time thinking about on the show, especially over the last year. It is not a crash. It is not a dramatic failure. It is just the gradual, almost invisible movement away from who you're trying to be. And it happens to all of us. Our last conversation today goes deep on this. About a year after we recorded those first couple episodes, Ben and I sat down to talk about what ineffectiveness looks like. 7 habits that, without realizing it, keep people stuck. It is the flip side of everything we've heard in those first couple episodes, and it might be the most useful lens of all. So without further ado, this is from April of 2025. We called the episode From Autopilot to Crash Landing, the 7 habits of highly ineffective people. So let's get into that now. I, every once in a while, have a clever idea. This was one of them. I was walking around at some point and I said, the 7 habits of highly ineffective people. That would be interesting and fun to talk about. So that's what we're going to do. I asked you, I said, hey, I've got this fun idea. Come up with 7 anti-habits, 7 opposite of Stephen Covey's habits. And so for folks who don't know, we have certainly talked about it before. We haven't talked about it in a while. I actually have it next to me. The 7 Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen Covey. It's a book that came out, I think, in the 70s or 80s. But it's a book we love that we highly recommend. And we're going to today talk about the opposite of those 7 habits. And so I'm just going to lead in with a bit of a quote from the book itself, just to give us a place to start. And then, Ben, you're going to walk us through what your 7 habits of highly ineffective people are. And this is from, I think, the introduction of 7 Habits. It's from, again, Stephen Covey. He writes this: for our purposes, we will define a habit as the intersection of knowledge, skill, and desire. Knowledge is the theoretical paradigm, the what to do and the why. Skill is the how to do, and desire is the motivation, the want to do. In order to make something a habit in our lives, we have to have all 3. By working on knowledge, skill, and desire, we can break through to new levels of personal and interpersonal effectiveness as we break with old paradigms that may have been a source of pseudo-security for years. It's sometimes a painful process. It's a change that has to be motivated by a higher purpose, but by the willingness to subordinate what you think you want now for what you want later. So we're going to get right into this. The first question I have for you before we get into your 7, when you think of, when we talk about this idea of effectiveness, what comes to mind? How do you define effectiveness is maybe the best way to ask this. What are we saying? What is Covey saying? Here's what effective people are doing. What are they doing? Why are they effective? And as we get into this conversation, ineffective people, what do they look like to you?
Yeah, that's a great place to start. To me, it's effective is on purpose, meaningful, and creation. It's you have to it's not by default. It's not just because you were placed in a certain environment or circumstance or luck or something else, but you are doing things intentionally with a high level of purpose with them. And you're putting things out, you're creating things in the world, right? It's not just a matter of the busy person, it's the creator. So when I think of another word for effective, a lot of people is like a high performer, right? It's the same thing. It's that type of idea of somebody that can go, do, achieve, and in all the right ways, not just climbing a ladder that we've talked about before. And it comes from Stephen Covey. It's not climbing a ladder only to get to the top and go look around and go, oh damn, this isn't what I thought. Wrong wall. This isn't what I thought I would end up.
Yeah.
Another thing is interesting hearing you read that quote. First, I love the way it ends, which is essentially kind of putting off the desires of today for the desires of tomorrow.
Exactly. Yeah.
That's we've talked about this before a long time ago in terms of one of the things that I think we should all be asking ourselves is, am I putting off short-term pleasure now for the long-term benefit? Or am I putting off the long-term benefit because I want that short-term thing right now?
Yep.
And you can put this in so many different contexts, from your relationships to your health to your business. In the really concrete terms, there is a cookie in front of you. The short-term pleasure is eating the cookie. The long-term version of you is going to benefit if you say no to that. So it's this constant kind of struggle back and forth. And that's what he alludes to, is like, this isn't easy. Like habit creation is not easy. And he has his knowledge, skill, and
Desire.
What was it? Desire. We have a different framework, which is awareness, intention, action, which kind of is similar, but in terms of the way we frame up habit formation, it is that. That's the way we would kind of address this, is awareness. Do you know what it is that you're trying to create and the whys behind it and what you're fighting against in terms of the potential roadblocks and the bumps in the roads and the struggles and the pitfalls that you might come up against, right? Then there's the intention, which is the strategy, and then action. Go do that thing. So I want to get in better shape. So I need to have better habits. Okay. First thing is awareness of what are those habits. Well, I'm going to start running and I'm going to eat better. I'm going to go to the gym. I'm going to sleep better. Okay. That's awareness. And then intention, like, what are those actual things? What is the strategy? And then, not only that, but what are the things that are going to bump up against me? Well, there's, my spouse likes to binge watch shows at night. And that's going to cause me to stay up at night. And I need to get up to go to the gym before work the next morning. And I'm going to start running. And what if it snows? It's like, you have to plan those things ahead of time. So a big part of it is awareness. And I think that's the conversation we're about to have, is bringing more awareness of the potential pitfalls at a macro level. But on a macro level, what are things that are really going to take you away from being an effective person?
Yeah. Would you say that, just thinking about this knowledge, skill, and desire, and what's at the heart of that, Venn diagram is, again, in Covey's language, that's the habit. That's the creation of the habit. That's the survival of the habit. Would you say that knowledge is, in our parlance, that's the awareness, and then the skill and desire is the intention? And then, of course, they both share this idea, like, you've got to do it. It's the action. But is that how you would, if I were to make you, is that where those things would live?
Knowledge, to me, knowledge is awareness.
What am I not doing? What should I be doing?
Skill is the intention. Skill is the strategy. It's the plan. It's the knowing how to execute. It's the execution. It's like, okay, what is the way I'm going to go about doing this? Desire.
Motivation.
That's the one that's a little bit, to me, is like,
That might be awareness too.
Yeah, where I would go kind of like, no, because habit formation, I don't think you need, you need the desire, but I think you have to frame that up a little bit, it's not motivation. We talked about this before. You can't wait to be motivated to lose 30 pounds, because you're going to have to go against all of those days where you're not motivated to do the things. So and maybe his thing is, no, it's not motivation, it's desire. Like, it has to, that desire, that deep burning inside of you has to override the lack of motivation. In that case, I love that. I think that's spot on.
Yeah.
That is action. It is just like, no, you just got to, no matter what, you got to go do the thing. You just got to go do it.
The thing you reach for when you're tired might be exactly the thing that's keeping you tired. I've been trimming back on caffeine, or at least trying, not eliminating it, just trying to get a little bit more intentional when I get it. Here's what I've noticed. I stopped reaching for it in the afternoon, and the 3 p.m. wall got a little bit shorter. Here's why. Caffeine doesn't give you energy. It actually mutes the signal that tells you that you're tired. The fatigue keeps building. When it wears off, well, you know what happens. It all comes crashing down upon you. Your body produces energy through a process that runs on electrolytes, not caffeine. If you are depleted, no amount of coffee is going to fix that. That's what makes Element Lemonade Iced Tea a little bit different. Full black tea extract, not isolated caffeine, bundled with L-theanine, the way it exists in the plant, plus sodium, potassium, and magnesium for some real hydration. No sugar, no artificial colors, less spike, less drop, no crash. It's trusted by CrossFit athletes, Stanford neuroscientists, and Olympic teams. Get a free 8-count sample pack with any purchase when you go to drinkelement.com/excellence. That's the letters LMNT. That's drinkelement.com/excellence. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that we take protein seriously, between 0.7 and 1 gram per pound of body weight every single day. That is the goal. David protein bars are one of the ways I actually hit that without loading up on sugar or empty calories. David has 2 bars. It's a gold bar and a bronze bar. I love both of them, and both have the best macros that you'll find. Gold has 28 grams of protein, 150 calories, 0 sugar. That's 75% of calories from protein. That's the highest ratio of any leading bar on the market. Doughy texture, satisfying chunks. The chocolate chip cookie dough and the blueberry pie are my go-tos. The bronze bar, 20 grams of protein, 150 calories, still 0 sugar, smooth marshmallow base, chocolate coating, serious crunch. The s'mores chocolate crunch is what I would recommend. So whether I'm coming off a training session or bridging the gap between lunch and dinner, this is the bar I reach for. High protein, low calories, no compromises on taste. Don't just take my word for it. Try it for yourself. Buy 4 cartons, get the 5th one free at davidprotein.com/excellence. That's davidprotein.com/excellence. I think the desire is a good bridge or entry point into our 7 habits of highly ineffective people, and only because without the desire to change or to start something new, you can't get to the habits of the highly effective people. And so I think one of our goals here today is to just bubble up the desire in all of us to make sure that we are moving towards Covey's habits and away from these habits of highly ineffective people. So let's jump right into your first one, which is habit number 1 of highly ineffective people is to be reactive. Covey's habit number 1 is to be proactive. So talk to us a little bit about what being reactive looks like and feels like, and why we should all bubble up the desire to be more proactive than reactive.
Yeah, it's basically just kind of giving up all agency, right? You're just kind of letting circumstances, emotions, other people dictate your actions. And you're just kind of reacting to everything. I've said before, it's like a leaf blowing in the wind. It's like whatever direction the wind blows, you react and you just kind of go that way. You really have no control or say or input into the way your life goes. And if you're reactive, you're mostly probably like blaming other people instead of taking responsibility. So I think that this goes like, I would say that the opposite of being reactive is proactive. To me, it's responsibility. Instead of being reactive, you are response-able. You are able to respond to other people, circumstances, emotions. You don't let the outside affect the inside. In order to have an effective, meaningful life, we have to be able to control our inside. And if we can't control it because someone says something that we don't like, or your boss asks you to do something, or you get cut off in traffic, or this other parent on the other sideline said this thing, we're just going to be kind of a pinball, kind of bounced around all the time with no real set direction. We can't be effective. How can we be effective in terms of making change in the world when we can't even change ourselves? So effective people, flip it. Effective people take ownership. They're responsible. They create things instead of waiting for things to happen. It's reactive is just like, well, I'm just going to wait until this thing, hopefully life turns around and hopefully this thing falls in my lap. And maybe one day it's like, instead of like going and doing the thing.
One of the things that we talk about a lot, which is this idea of understanding what's in your control versus what's just in your circle of concern. I think Ryan Holiday's done a really good job of bringing that into what Stoicism is all about. But Stephen Covey, that concept was first introduced to me through you, but through Stephen Covey and 7 Habits. I think that that's worth just remembering, that a lot of this proactivity versus reactivity is continually reminding ourselves what is in our control, what is not in our control, and reacting less as best we can to the things that are outside of our control. I think the other thing I want to just bring up is that this is habit number 1 in Covey's world for a reason. It's the one that is the lead domino. And I would imagine, do you believe as we're looking at these habits of highly ineffective people, is being reactive the lead domino for that downstream ineffectiveness?
Yeah, and you positioned it perfectly well in terms of this is just basically a placeholder for, are you focusing on things that are inside your control or not?
Yeah.
People go like, okay, like I can focus on my sleep. I can focus on my nutrition. I can focus on buckling down and working on that project. It's when you actually boil it down to the things that you actually totally have control over, it's only two things. And it is your effort and your attitude.
Yep.
Everything else can be taken away from you except for those two things. So what are the two things that we need to start with? It's essentially that. If you are reactive, you're just everything that is outside of your control, you're getting involved in. You're reacting to every single thing when instead of, you pulled up Singer and Stoicism, Michael Singer would kind of just like, dude, just let it roll off your shoulders. Like you don't have to react to every single thing that happens in life. In fact, if you do, or Mark Manson, you're like, it's the subtle art of actually not giving an F about a lot of things.
Yeah.
So you save your Fs for the things that actually do matter,
Yep.
which is just two things, your effort and your attitude. It makes it so simple when you're working with athletes. All that I want, his halftime speech just went viral. The whole thing was just about like, one small little thing. You guys missed 2 shots in a row and you have your slumped shoulders, you have body language, you're half-assing it back on defense. Have you guys never dealt with anything of adversity in your life? One small thing happens and you crumble. That's it. What I want you to focus on is your effort and your attitude. Without those two things, nothing else in the list matters. We got to get those two, effort and attitude. Don't be reactive.
Last thing on this
Don't let circumstances.
Yep.
For him, the circumstance was a player missed 2 shots in a row. Because of that, he gets down on him. Like you can't let, whether you're down by 20, up by 20, made the last 6 shots, missed the last 6 shots. Can you not let circumstance, the outside environment, dictate the way that you show up?
Yep.
That's really hard. Most of us are massively influenced by our environment, the people around us, the energy, the level of confidence that we have. The idea behind this is like, no, you got to work on not reacting to the environment, not reacting to other people, not reacting to the circumstances, not reacting to your own emotions and thoughts. Like, can you bring your best self? Yep. Can you not react to those things?
Yeah. 2 real quick things before we move on to the next habit. The first is, we talk about triggers. We talk about getting knocked off balance or off center a lot. That's what we're talking about. And I think it's important to point out, which is that the goal is not to not get triggered or not get knocked off center or not have the boat rocked a little bit. Those are inevitable things. To your point, to what we're talking about here, it's closing the gap between the event and our ability to be proactive or responsible in light of the event. And then the second thing is just a bring back of a conversation we had a couple months ago, which is this concept of context independent peace of mind, which is, I just still sort of love. And that's right. That's in line with what you're saying. Like, doesn't matter if you're down, doesn't matter if it's raining, doesn't matter if you're in traffic. It doesn't matter if your boss is mad at you. Can we begin to build towards a certain peace of mind that is irrespective of all of those circumstances?
Yeah. When you start this process, you're going to realize that you get triggered by some small things. Yep. Those are the things to work on.
Yep.
Those are the ones, like small weights in the gym. You start there. Then they don't feel like work anymore. Then they just don't even feel like it's work anymore. And you stop getting triggered by anything in traffic. You might get the shock when someone cuts you off. That's a physiological response, but you don't have the urge to grip their handle tight and chase him down and give him the finger. It doesn't exist anymore.
Those are the 10-pound dumbbells that are easy, or they become the 10-pound dumbbells that are easy. Yep. Take that. All right. Habit number 2 of highly ineffective people is to live on autopilot. And as a reminder of habit 2 from Covey is begin with the end in mind. So talk to us a little bit about living on autopilot. Yeah, I think you mentioned it a little bit at the top, but let's go a little bit deeper.
It's going through the motions.
Yep.
It's just being on cruise control. It's a little bit like the leaf in the wind. It's just no real interest in improving your life. It's just, this is what I do, so this is what I'm going to do. And it's actually not taking ownership. It's not realizing that you can change things. So it's just because you smoke doesn't mean you smoke tomorrow. Just because you have a short temper with your kids doesn't mean you have a short temper with your kids tomorrow. It's this idea of like, wait a minute, I do have this, and these obviously are all interplay off each other.
Yep.
But it's this kind of like popping up out of this default programming and just going, wait, I can actually change. I can influence the outcomes of my life. So live life on autopilot. I come home, I order out, I sit in front of the TV, I don't exercise, I watch 5 hours of TV while scrolling through my phone, and I have 3 drinks and then a dessert. And then the next morning, I sleep in as late as I can, I snooze, only to wake up at the last possible moment to go to work, and I rush to work grabbing my, triple venti grande espresso lappuccino only to
that's a real thing,
to get to work, and I'm miserable at work, and I just try to get through the day to get back to the couch to be able to sit down with my takeout and watch shows while scrolling in hopes that I can just finally maybe get to the weekend where I have more time to do those things. Like, no, it's stop living on this repetitive wheel, pop up and look around and go, what can I do? Mm-hmm. What could I do to instill some hard changes that, some challenges and some discomfort and grow instead of just kind of like autopilot. This is it. This is what I do. I'm reacting to everything. And this next one is just like, well, this is the way it is. Mm-hmm. I'm just going to kind of go through the motions of life, and hopefully I get to – it's also people that try to put off like happiness to the other side of the goal. Well, maybe when I get out of high school, because high school sucks. It's like when I get out of high school, it'll be better. Mm-hmm. And it's like, oh, well, maybe when I graduate college, or maybe if I'm able to marry somebody, or maybe if I'm able to get a job, or maybe once I retire. And it's
playing those end games that Heather talks about
instead of getting off autopilot and going, what are the changes I can make right now to be proactive about this whole thing?
Yep.
Like the idea is like, wake up, right?
Yep.
Wake up and kind of stop checking your phone and do things and live your life deliberately on purpose.
It's interesting as you're listing all those things out, I think about the folks who are listening to this show, who are sort of, joined us on this particular pursuit. And I think we're all beyond that, 5 hours of TV and 3 drinks and living for the weekend. I think what you just described is probably the vast majority of people. The fact that even if we've elevated ourselves beyond just those satisfying base desires and taking the easy road every chance we get, there is a degree that we also can settle on autopilot. Autopilot isn't just for those people. Autopilot is a risk for all of us, no matter where we are on the understanding of what it means to chase what truly matters.
So I think you're getting into the next one a little bit.
Cool, let's do it.
But I think that the idea behind this is you're exactly right. It's no matter what level you are, are we making conscious decisions about our time, energy, focus, like conscious decisions.
Yep.
Right? As opposed to this repetitive thing that we're doing it because we did it yesterday.
Right. Or like, I've made it to, I'm a partner at the law firm. I make $250K and I guess this is the top, I guess this is it now.
Yep.
And then settling there for the next 10 years until retirement.
Well, I also like what you said, I think that's most of the people that listen to our show are not that. Well, it's because most of the people on our show are effective people.
Agreed.
They are highly effective people. So, right.
Maybe it's
the episode that they just kind of slide into somebody else's DMs, maybe we should. Yeah.
Habit number 3 of ineffective people is to sprint in the wrong direction. And that is in contrast to habit 3 from Covey, which is to put first things first.
Yeah. So there's it's saying I've shared before, but is a form of hell is working really, really hard for something that ultimately does not matter.
Yeah.
That's like, imagine spending your life working your tail off, like working so hard, only to find out that, oh, this wasn't, it's kind of like a punishment in the military was like, yo, private, dig that ditch. You dig a ditch for the entire day. You get to the end of the day and they're like, cool, now fill it back in. You're like, oh my God, it actually wasn't for anything?
Yeah.
At least I thought there was a purpose behind this. So work really hard for no actual real reason is the wrong direction. And that's why we have chase what truly matters. Like that's the idea behind this. It's the difference between just being busy, but actually not being productive and chasing the wrong things, chasing whatever it might be, right? Status, money, recognition, awards, accolades over the real things. And I'm not saying those things are wrong because I chase them, but are we chasing them to fuel your ego, or are we chasing them to provide even a more meaningful, impactful, experience-filled life? To me, those are vastly different pursuits.
Yep.
I want to be a greater achiever because I want to have greater impact in the world, not just because I want the status of more zeros in my bank account or be able to drive a Bugatti. Like those things do nothing for me. To be able to like wear more expensive clothes, like that does nothing for me. But to be able to go and experience more things with the people I care about, awesome, love that. To be able to build things that impact more people in more positive ways, cool. Like that's very different. It's not saying chasing achievement is wrong, but why are we chasing this achievement? Is it because it will fuel your ego? In that case, you're going to be the professional athlete that retires and goes into depression.
Yeah.
Because my whole identity was caught up into this thing of being this person who everyone applauded. And it's not just athletes this happens in the military. There's really cool things, stories of guys that with all the stars on their chest that sit next to the president, they retire and they realize that somebody else is sitting there and they have to sit in the folding chair. And it's like, oh, that wasn't because it was me. That's because it was that position. Well, if you're chasing that thing because you identify yourself as the person with that position, we're chasing the wrong thing. If you're chasing that thing because it's going to provide better meaning and purpose to your life as a whole, then it's not you that's that person. You're chasing this for something that matters. You're going in the right direction. So the idea behind this is don't be reactive. Don't just get blown around by whatever's happening around you. Don't just live on autopilot. Like be intentional with what you're trying to create. And then when you're trying to create that thing, don't just go and chase it because it's what your mom and dad, society, school, your boss, or your ego is saying you should chase. Take the time to figure out if this is the thing that's going to our deathbed experience, right? We get to our deathbeds and we go, I'm so glad I spent the time pursuing that. If we always have that in our minds, we won't fall for this trap of ineffectiveness. We won't climb the ladder only to get to realize we're on the wrong wall. Chase what actually matters.
Yeah. I like that you have sprint in the wrong direction because it feels like that's what so many people do, myself included in the past. It's like, I'm not only going to, make my way towards that generally wrong direction, but I'm going to put all myself into it and really move as fast as I can in the wrong direction.
It's kind of interesting. The way you kind of positioned it before was like, okay, but our people aren't on the couch with the bag of Cheetos. Our people might be this, right? Which is you grind, you work, you push, you hustle, you have the side hustle, you are setting goals, chasing goals, achieving goals, but you never actually kind of step back to go like, wait, are these things that are fulfilling me? So effective people go for progress, but they go for progress with purpose, not just movement.
Habit number 4 of highly ineffective people is build by breaking down. What do you mean by that?
Well, you are achieving goals, you're setting goals, you're achieving them, you're chasing, you're going. Maybe even you're doing it with for the right reasons, the right intentions, the right direction. But if we get there by tearing other people down, if we get there by trying to make others lose, If we do it by burning bridges instead of building bridges, or with negativity, blame, criticism, are we actually being effective? Are we actually, because being effective has to be beyond just yourself. Like, to me, it's like we're a part of humanity. No person lives solitarily. We are interconnected. So we have to kind of flip that around and go, we're going to do this we're going to chase what matters, and we're going to build with others, lifting them up along the way. Leading by building teams and individuals and helping and recognizing that success is not a zero game. This is not just about you. It's about doing this in a way that up. So you can think of the politician that got to his place by scare tactics and threatening and belittling other people along the way. Instead of promoting his campaign, he's just tearing down the others. It's the scare tactics and the hate campaign rather than here's what we can do together. So I think everyone can, if they don't have a specific person in mind when I say that, they can envision what that person might look like. And it's not, obviously it's not solely, related to politics. It's in anything, right? It's actually even in like athletics, it's wanting to win maybe at the expense of other people's loss. I heard Joe Rogan talking about this recently, and he was saying he realized when he really needed to make a switch was when he was an up-and-coming stand-up comic. And he would get off and he would just have this internal feeling that he would hope that the person that came on after him would bomb. And it's like, I want to position myself better by making them worse. Like, what good is that doing anybody?
Yeah.
He labeled himself as, swear words. He's like, that's me acting like a little bitch ass. I gotta stop acting like that. A better way to grow is like, no, I want let's all do this. Let's all succeed.
It's interesting because I think you're spot on. Two things. One, I remember an old Gary Vee quote, which is that not everybody, I forget the exact quote, but it's something like, some people try to build the biggest building in town by knocking down all the other buildings. And I want to build the biggest building in town. Right. And those two things are fundamentally different. And then the second thing I think about is like, I think we see it in gyms all of the time. It's the athlete who checks what you got on your score before telling you what he got on his score. Did he go faster than you? Judging himself and others based on the daily performance, not celebrating the fact that, hey, we're all here and we got to do this thing together for 30 minutes or whatever. And isn't that great? But instead, constantly comparing, constantly judging himself or herself against everybody else around them, not building a sense of cohesion, but a sense of me against all of you. This is all one big race, and I want to be the winner of that race.
Totally cool. Yeah, that Gary Vee one really hits home. Because if you actually like that analogy parable is so strong, because you can be the tallest building in town without growing at all. Which by knocking everyone else down to rubble, you're now the tallest. You haven't grown. You haven't gotten any better. Well, this is going back to what we're trying to do here is we're trying to be an effective person. An effective person has to be more effective tomorrow than they were today. It's like we got to grow and evolve. So the best way to do that is to look at how other people have built their buildings and try to, wow, that's amazing, and be in awe and inspired, and try to learn from them and try to collaborate and do things along with them and grow everybody. It's not about getting a bigger piece of the pie. It's about growing a bigger pie.
Yep.
Right?
Because pies are grown on trees.
Exactly. Yes.
Habit number 5 of highly ineffective people. And this is in contrast to Covey's habit, which is to seek first to understand and then be understood.
Yeah, so you can imagine a person in any situation that isn't interested in actually evolving themselves or the conversation. It's again, a lot of this stuff goes back to ego. I just want everyone to feel like I'm smart, that I'm right. I want people to hear me. And it ends up showing up as like debate a lot of times, or argumentative. If this was the case, ensure that you're heard. It's you talk more than you listen. In this podcast, Patrick, you're doing a much better job than I am. You just assume that you're right and you ignore feedback, right?
Yep.
It's fixed mindset versus growth mindset. And in conversations, you interrupt, you dominate, you avoid silence, and you basically enter every conversation trying to prove a point instead of trying to use people around you to learn, grow, and evolve.
Yep. I had dinner the other night with my dad and my mom as well. And I've talked about my dad before. I genuinely believe I won the parent lottery, and my dad's amazing, but he and I do not agree on fundamentally. We don't agree on a lot politically. Let's put it that way. And I have tried very hard to not broach this subject over many years because it just ends up making everybody else uncomfortable. But we went out to dinner and it just happened. And I'm thinking about this because I'm checking a lot of boxes of being ineffective in this particular case. I certainly tried, but I can't say that I fully sought to understand him before I worked to try to have him understand me. I certainly didn't act as though I wanted to create a win-win situation, or in your language, I did not, or I did build by breaking down. I reflected on this a lot the night after when I got home, is I was fundamentally reactive. And I think when you start, and we do live in a time where like, I'm certainly not alone in this sort of ineffectiveness, but I think when you start thinking about it in that sort of environment or that kind of context, you can start to see how these things really do build upon each other. And I said at the top, like the be reactive is the lead domino. And in the case of that conversation, again, we're fine. We laughed about it afterwards and it's all good. But the lead domino for he and I was an immediate reaction. And everything that happened after that was because we didn't allow ourselves to make space between the trigger and the response. We were neither of us really responsible, but we were very reactive. And that is the domino that led to all the other ones.
It's the Dale Carnegie thing about how to win friends and influence people.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very effective person.
Yep.
That can win friends and influence people, like change people. Well, effective people listen first and they speak probably not even second, probably like third or fourth, right? They not only listen, but then they allow space.
Yep.
They allow it to digest. They ask another question. They're curious. They're compassionate. They're empathetic. And how did you, like instead of in the political thing, it is this curiosity of like, how did you, like, how did you,
how is it that you and I believe fundamentally different things?
How did you get to that belief system that you believe so deeply? Like,
yep.
Instead of, no, you're not listening. Like you don't get, like, do you not understand that it's this true, deep curiosity?
Yeah.
It's those people with true, deep curiosity that are the most effective. And think of it, pulling it out of the political with your dad, you with your kids. Like, how quick are we to tell our kids to judge their behavior? And if we were to step back a couple times and really take the time to listen, it changes things. And it's like, I just know this from experience because I've been quick to snap. And there are other times that I want to snap and I'm so sure of my position, but you take a moment or two and you go, what's going on, buddy? Like, what's happening? Tell me what's, and you just have the curiosity thing. And it's hard, but that's the whole idea behind these things. Of course they're hard. If they weren't hard, most people are not highly effective. And that's the idea. Most people are ineffective. So this is the kind of the default. The default is built into survival. It is not about, there's nothing built into our biology to be a highly effective person. That's not what we are set up to be. We are set up just to survive. Calorie preservation, make sure that we are part of the herd, make sure that we don't rock the boat, make sure it's just like we're not set up for this other stuff. So we have to go against a lot of our default biology and go against it. That's what makes it hard. So we need to, it's not necessarily about you getting your way, you getting hurt. It's playing the long game. Like maybe in this argument, with your dad or with your kid or with this coach or with this parent, maybe you don't need to win this one.
Yeah.
Like win the war, not the battles. Like you can lose every single battle and still win a war. You can't. Like Vietnam, they lost every battle, but they won the war. It's like you don't have to win this interaction.
Yep.
Just learn from it. Like, can you plant some seeds instead?
What I think about is that there's a real distinction between being right and being effective. A lot of times when we're being reactive, or even when we're living on autopilot, what we're really trying to do is preserve our feeling of rightness, preserve the safety that we have in feeling like we're right, in feeling like we understand this, versus in recognizing that there's probably a lot we don't understand, or there's a lot not within our control. And it's to understand the difference between like not trying to be right, but in fact trying to be effective. And effective in a relationship of any kind, which is really very much kind of what we're talking about. To be effective in a relationship often means in this moment, I have to cede my desire to be right, or to feel as though I am right, and to take that long view that you're talking about.
As we're going through this and as you're laying that out, and I love it, it's not about being right. It's like doubling down on how, one of Heather's evil E's, how detrimental the ego is to actually being an effective person.
Yep.
All of these are essentially built into ego gratification.
Yeah.
And I think people misconstrue ego, and we've talked about it a fair amount on the show, but ego is not, I'm the best. Ego is, I need to protect my identity.
Yep.
And if that identity might be that of a victim, right? And that's where some of the first ones come in, about just not being proactive, just being reactive, not taking any ownership. It's like, it's not my fault. It's not my fault. It's the political system. It's the wage we live in now. It's the damn millennials, whatever it is. But yeah, I think that it's such a good call out in terms of this desire to be right, which is just feeding our ego.
Yeah. Last thing before we move on to our sixth one, which is, do you feel like being effective is a goal that a lot of people have? A lot of this conversation is based on the idea that we walk around consciously thinking, one of my aims here is to be an effective fill in the blank, effective communicator, effective husband, effective parent, effective coworker, effective whatever. Do you feel like people are actually aiming for that? Or do you feel like it's one of those things that if I accident my way into being effective, isn't that great?
I don't even think it's on the radar at all.
I don't think so either.
It's like what Heather's thing is, it's the three evil E's. It's I want to achieve this. I want to get to this career. I want to get to this earning potential. I want to live in this kind of a house.
Yep.
I want the people in my life to treat me a certain way. I want the world to kind of line up in line with my vision and kind of like what I expect. And if it doesn't go that way, I'm pissed off. Mm-hmm. I think that's the way most people are navigating the world.
Yeah.
Not with this higher level awareness of what is the thing I should actually be putting my energy towards. I think that's a really different conversation that all of myself included should be having with myself way more frequently.
Yeah. We keep mentioning it. I just want to make sure folks know what we're talking about. We had Heather on, your wife, in early January. We did an episode with her called The 3 Psychological Traps Ruining Your Best Moments, where we're talking about ego, expectation, and endgame. So if folks didn't listen to that, go back and listen to it. It was great. All right, let's move on to habit 6 of being highly ineffective people, which is to go alone. What does that mean?
Yeah. So first off, alone, both of us enjoy our alone time.
Yep. It's too much.
Right. It is. Yep. So to be effective, right? That's what we're kind of saying. And effective, to be ineffective. Mm-hmm. Well, if you're ineffective, you're doing this by yourself.
Yep.
Like that's just the deal. What are you trying to affect? And even if you are going off into your cabin in the woods, or you're going to your wherever it is to do your thing, and you're going to come out and reveal this masterpiece, you're going to reveal this innovation, you're going to reveal this impactful development, whatever it is, you'll get there faster, farther, and with more fulfillment if you do it with others.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the idea. Is like even the geniuses of the world, the Jobses, the Musks, the Bezos or whoever it might be, or back in the day, Edison, they didn't do these things alone. They were crazy effective. They may build more than anything anybody else has, but they do it with teams. They've all done it with teams. And that's the idea, is that ineffective people believe that you need something done, you got to do it yourself. Alone is farther, faster, lighter, and that's just not the case. Mm-hmm. They think teamwork slows them down, and it doesn't. They think asking for help is a weakness, and it's not. When they see others as competition instead of a way to collaborate. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it's ineffective people go alone, whereas the other people collaborate.
There's this great term that I heard years ago. It's from, I believe, the musician Brian Eno, and he coined this idea called a scenius. So instead of a genius, this idea of a scenius, so the combination of genius and scene. And his point was just what you're laying out, which is that even the people who we believe through storytelling and lore and history have come out the other side as appearing to have done these magical things all by themselves, it's actually the case that they were inside of, again, this term, this scenius, of people doing these kinds of things, of people pursuing some kind of challenge, whatever those challenges might be, whether it's Silicon Valley. The idea of a scenius, to me, a great example of it is Northern California, when Greg Glassman decided to make people do thrusters and pull-ups. Yes, it was Greg Glassman, and maybe he was alone in a room when he came up with like, hey, if I combine these two things. But you and I were there, we were around in those years, and we know that it wasn't just Greg doing these things. There was this whole crew of people, this whole scenius of people who, without them, Greg would have just been admittedly a slightly crazy guy who had these ideas about making people do thrusters and pull-ups and work out so fast that they wanted to throw up, right? And so I just think that this is such an important thing to remember for people like me who instinctually would like to go fast and go alone, that it's almost never the case that the thing you're admiring or the people you're admiring did that. It's much more likely that they were part of a scenius, that they were part of a crew, that they were surrounded by people who pushed them and who they pushed, right? We had that great episode on building your crew. Our crew helps keep us healthy, but it also pushes us in the direction that we want to go if we can design and build that crew with some amount of intention.
Maybe I missed that part, but the scene part of scenius, and I almost feel like it should be like teamness, but
scene, like, hey, this is a cool scene. It's like probably like an old school way of saying like, hey, this group of people that hang out.
Scene.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Scene, like SCENE.
Yep.
Like, hey, this group of people that hang out in that kind of place and do that kind of thing.
It's together. There's this level of, if you go alone, you're never asking for mentorship. You're never asking for feedback. You're never looking for outside perspectives. It's alone. It's a solo endeavor. And without those things, we just can't grow. We can't be as impactful as we possibly could. Mm-hmm. So I think it's exactly right. The team thing, like, it's one of my biggest values. The thing that I want to do almost more than anything else is just be a part of a high performing team. Yeah. It's the thing that like lights me up is when we're all pushing and passionate and building and creating and challenging each other. It's doing impactful work. That's why I've become an entrepreneur, is because I want to be able to have control over the people, the teams that I work with. And it's a thing that I've set up both my businesses to be about, is like to hire and work with great people.
I also just think it's because we were talking about ego before and self-protection. I also think that the impulse or the desire to go alone, we can intellectualize it and say, oh, it's because I can go fast, I'm light, I'm nimble, I can adjust, I can pivot, etc. But I think more often than not, the desire to go alone is the fear of the feedback, the fear of the needing to explain yourself, the fear of somebody else's idea might be better than yours. And then you've got to live with that idea of like, maybe I'm not as good at this as I thought I was. Maybe I'm not the kind of leader. I'm not the kind of programmer. I'm not the kind of coach that I thought I was, because now that I'm in this team, I'm being forced to level up, back to the idea of living on autopilot. I thought I was good. I thought I could just ride this and I wouldn't need to worry about other people. But now that I'm on this team, I recognize that I've got some uncomfortable things to do in the sense of I've got to get better at this. I've got to get less reactive, right? And so being on a crew, being like truly on a crew or on a team, it exposes all of your weaknesses. And if you can convince yourself to go it alone, really what you're doing is saying, I don't want those weaknesses exposed, and I'd rather trade effectiveness for safety.
You hit on one of my triggers or weak spots as you were kind of laying that out, which is I'm all about a team and I love that. But one of the things that I find tiring, and it's a reason that I do enjoy the solo pursuit, which I know I have to, is this necessity of when you're on a team of having to explain your vision, your motive. I got it. It makes you want to be the dictator. It makes you want to be the person, just like not delegate, don't question, because it's tiring and it's exhausting. And I think that you're pointing out exactly right, is that's the thing that a lot of us convince ourselves is the reason to go alone. Mm-hmm. But we're never going to build something of real purpose. And call it your life, right? Like, forget about the product, but think of your family. Like, you can't do this thing without the others.
That's such a good point.
Right?
Just go to bed.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. And it harkens back a little bit to the previous habit, which is to ensure that you are heard.
Right.
Right. Which is kind of what you're saying is like, I said the thing, just go do it now, versus, in Covey's words, seek first to understand, then be understood. Mm-hmm. Again, not a coincidence that all of these things are linked in the way that they are and interdependent in the way that they are. Habit 7, believe balance is for beginners. Talk to me about that.
So again, this is kind of expanding about effective, right?
Yeah.
Because to truly be effective over the long haul and have a, quote, well-lived life, which we're saying is the most effective thing to do, right? We're not saying effective is getting that project done. Mm-hmm. It's not that. It is over the long haul. The truly most effective people will have balance. And this is controversial, and no, it's not. And you hear like the hustle culture or the Silicon Valley, you hear these CEOs saying that they're going to be home for dinner. It's like, I would never invest in a company where the CEO is home for dinner with their family. Like that. Right. I get it. It's like, because for you need to make your returns in 5 years. You don't care about the infinite game. For you, it's just like, can you get your return? Human beings be damned. I'm cracking on VCs a lot. But the idea is it's a short-term expense for long-term. And it is this belief that the hustle culture, hustle at the expense of your health, relationships, happiness, and all the other things. Rest is a weakness, and measure success only by external achievements. Mm-hmm. Right? And this is antithetical to what we're talking about on the show, which is essentially a fulfilled, well-lived life, which means by necessity you have balance, which means that you get to the end of your deathbed and don't go, yep, okay, I'm the richest man that ever lived, but damn, I wish I had more love. I wish I had more hobbies. I wish that I had whatever it might be. So we can't burn the candle at both ends. We can't sacrifice sleep or health or relationships or anything else. We can't fall for the trap of like, well, I'll sleep when I'm dead. Although in my college, I used to say I'll sleep when I'm 40. Like, 4:40 in the morning. If people are like, you want to find a super late night party? Like, oh yeah, I'll sleep when I'm 40. It's like, okay, now I'm almost 50. Like everything I did in college would be torture for me now.
Wrapping this up, successful or achieving the results that you want. And I love this conversation in the context of this broader chasing excellence, which is, what are we trying to achieve? What are the results that we want? And it's to live our lives with a degree of peace of mind, right? To know that our actions are leading to the life we want to lead, that our ladder is up against the right wall. And so I think, thinking about all 7 of these habits of highly ineffective people, one of the ways to do that is do these things and you will not reach the peace of mind that we're talking about, that we talk about all the time here.
Well, I like that you reframed that from achieving the things that you want to achieving peace of mind.
Mm-hmm.
Because that I can't help but hear the former before CrossFit definitions of fitness, which was the people defined it as like, well, fitness is having the ability to be able to do what you want. And okay, but if you want to run a 220 marathon, that's the equivalent of like these people that are just achieving to achieve something without kind of going like, but at what expense?
Yep.
And that is not like, we all know that the 220 marathoner does not have optimal fitness or health. They have exceptional performance in one narrow area, but at the expense of a lot of others. And if we're saying effective is to be able to do what you want, but what if what you want is in violation of that second one, is like chasing the wrong things, driving really, really hard for something that actually doesn't matter. You get to the top of the wall and you go, damn, oh my God, I can't believe I partied and smoked cigarettes for the last 45 years of my life, never having one meaningful relationship and never actually having any impact on anything other than feeding my own short-term gratification. That's not what we're saying. So I don't agree with that definition, just like I don't agree with the old school definition of fitness. I think it's much a matter of about, for fitness, what's your area under the curve? Like we can measure it, like it's your capacity. Much like I think that ours is not just achieve the things that you want is effective, but achieve this with the idea that you're ending your life looking back on it in a way that makes you proud and excited about the choices that you made. I think it's much a bigger scope than this narrow thing that might feed an ego, right? I'm not belittling that at all, but it's the same way that chasing this one thing because it's what we want might not be the most effective way to spend our lives. Peace of mind, probably a better approach to that.
All right, that is a wrap on this here Supercut. 3 conversations, 1 thread. High performance is not about talent or luck or circumstance. It is about showing up fully, consistently, without complaint. It's about knowing what the 5 habits look like in practice and building systems around them. And it's about staying awake to the drift, those 7 quiet ways we slip away from our best selves, often without even noticing. If this hits close to home, one more time, I'd love for you to join us in the 21-day high performance challenge that we are in the midst of. We kicked it off on June 15th, the day this episode comes out. And there's still, of course, time to jump in. The link is in the show notes, whether you want to do it inside the Chase Tracker app, through the Chase Club alongside me, or just with a notebook and 3 questions every night. There's an option for you. Again, check the link in the show notes for more information. All right. Thanks so much for being here. We'll be back next week with a brand new episode of Chasing Excellence. Thank you so much for being here. 2 quick things before you go. First, the 531 listener guide for this episode is in the show notes. 5 big ideas, 3 reflection questions, and 1 key takeaway. Check it out at the link in the show notes. And second, if you're ready to do the daily work, not just listen to the show, the Chase Club is where the crew does that together. Daily lessons, monthly challenges, a Friday Chase Club chat club, all of it at the link in the show notes and chasingexcellence.email.